Okay, I know it's been a while since I've made one of these things. I've been super busy here doing, got a lot of home front things going on. Took up quite a lot of time and still is. So it's going to be some time before I can get back to fully doing things that I used to do. I've got a lot of other things I need to do first. But on to the question of NG. It is possible that it could be the NG version causing the issue, but I doubt it, and let me tell you why. Even with the old G version, there were still tons of crashes, lots of crashes. I believe loose file stream was one of the most common ones I came across. And a lot of times, people, when they entered settlements, you had power grid corruption, lots of different things. And that's the OG version. The NG version, I think, has a set of its own unique problems. And I'll show you, to try to keep this short, I'll show you as quickly as I can what, what crashes I've had and kind of like how I kind of isolated them. So with NG, I think it's a good idea. I've been using NG since I think probably last year. I played OG and then I went to NG. And then once I went to NG, there were a lot of mods I had in my load order I wanted to carry over into NG, but I couldn't because they either weren't ready or they didn't work. Now, in saying that, a lot of the mods that I have in my game were never redone. Some of them are back from, I think, 2016, 2017. I've got a cross Plaz rail. I've got cross crit gore, which instead of making goo piles, if it knows the race of what died, then I see that. I think it's the race. It'll actually, show a skeleton. Like, let's say if it's a ghoul, like a reaver, it'll show a skeleton in a set of reaver armor. Things like that. Those were definitely not updated. So many things work from NG from OG to NG. Some of the things that don't are F4SC plugins because the addresses have changed. The compiled code is different and the addresses has changed. So it may or may not be. I believe that NG has its own new set of problems. I have not had, I think I've had one a loose file stream. I think it was one loose file stream out of almost a year playing the game, and that's modded games. I cannot play vanilla games anymore. There is no way. There's no way. I have to mod it, especially Bethesda game. It's got to be modded. But that's the only one that I really remember, and I've only had like one. However, I do have an occasional crash. It's like a random crash where it's not repeatable. It's completely random. So let me show you what I have here, and I'll kind of go over some of the and this is NG. Everything here is NG. Now some of these mods have never been updated since OG. Some have been updated to work with NG, but so far it's been very, very stable. So let me just start out here by showing you my plugin list. There's quite a few plugins in here. Up here you can see these are the yellow ones are the officials. Here, these little green ones here, these are everything in this section here is Creation Club. Then everything here down is just what I've added to the game. These are all the mods I've added. That's my load order. I do have previs in here. I have noticed that occasionally if previs is broken, I will get previs crashes. And I think this happened. I think this might be tied to possibly optimizations that they've done. It's the order in which they're doing things. Somehow they tried to optimize how quickly they can get data to render scenes, and in some instances, frames that you're seeing on the screen. And I think in some instances there's a hole in the logic or a hole in the testing. Now, whether that's because it's injected through F4SE out of game logic space, kind of like I'm going to put this in now. Because normally scripts are going to access data, basic, the indigenous scripts, then, the official, the native scripts, papyrus scripts. They're going to execute things within a certain logic of the game. And then when you extend the commands, that may or may not take into consideration if or when some of the variables that they're looking at are actually going to be available, or if a list is currently in use or locked. You have a lot of mitigation issues. So there are issues that come with that. But back to the load order. You can see there's quite a few plugins in here. I have quite a few mods. Let's see. I think I've got... I don't know if it shows it. Yeah, I don't think it shows all that. But you can see the white, the highlighted ones, or the ones that are not grayed out or grayed. These are all the mods I have in the game. And there's a lot of them. And since I'm currently working on the code, there might be some in here that are not highlighted that are actually in the game. So there's a lot of mods in here, quite a few. Over here, you can see I have quite a few F4SE plugins. The ones in orange are the ones that wouldn't load. Those are the ones that need an NG update, and whether the mod author or not does that, I'm not sure. Me personally, I get it. I mean, after you've worked on something for years and it changes, it's kind of like we want Bethesda to fix stuff. Bethesda doesn't, therefore we're not going to do it. I get the cycle. I get it. I get it. But if, with Microsoft, after they've acquired Bethesda, if they go into a cycle of updating their product, updating their game, then what's going to happen is the code is constantly going to change. So, in my opinion, Bethesda should provide a hook, a way to hook into their game to get into it. I don't know why not to extend it. I know they made the papyrus. They made the scripting language to extend the game. So why not open up a way to extend papyrus, which is what a lot of many of the script extenders do, or the plugins for the script extenders do. Okay, so now you see this. The only one I've disabled is spell perk distributor. I had to disable that. And that's what I'm going to get to over here. So here's all of the times I've played the game over here. Not this. These are papyrus logs. But over here, these are all times I've played the game. You can see the game sessions. And you can see I have a whole lot of crashes here. Now, what I do is I record the time that I play the game. And if it's a game session, if that session ends in a crash, then I record, because I'll record the game session, the time that I played, and I record a crash if it happens. And then I also have a way to put a comment into the code, where there'd be like add comment. And that's what this is. So this stays part of this file, so every time this file is displayed, or the contents is displayed, it'll show associated comments. And I do this to keep track of what I think the error might be. And what it saves me from doing is this. If it's a buff out log, I can bring it up, just like that. And that's the buff out that's associated with this crash. And I don't have to scan it. I can look through it, scan it, and I can say, okay, this is what it is. And I can make a little comment for it. Most of the crashes I've had, pretty much 99% of all the crashes I've had, has either been where I'm using an interface mod and I don't have all the Swift files installed, or I'm pointing to the wrong Swift file, because apparently some of the F4SE plugins do not check to see if it exists before it tries to access data on it. That's going to result in a null reference, null value, instant crash. Not all interface mods do that. Some do. And then I kept having problems where I would be in an interior cell, save the game, and then, of course, my character would die, want to reload, so I don't have to start over again from outside. Like let's say I go inside Corvega, and I die inside Corvega. I can't reload from inside Corvega. It would crash. That was a spell perk distributor's problem. It crashed. Now, it might be something to do with the way True Damage tries to interface with it. I'm not sure. And that is the majority of the crashes you see here. Now, all of a sudden, you don't see any crashes at all. And then way down here, about a day later, you see a random crash. This is random. This is one of the randoms I'm talking about. And this looked like it had something to do with previs. But you can see here all the crashes stopped all through all of this. But before that, I had a lot of crashes. So, and I'll show you something else interesting. But before I do that, I went ahead and I disabled spell perk distributor, which I think I made a note up here. And after that, no problems. Probably right up here somewhere. No problems at all. Now, I have added and removed mods. I don't so much remove them oftentimes as add them in. If I remove it, if I want to try a mod out, I'll make sure I have a save game. I'll try it out, and then I'll keep that save game so I can fall back to it when I remove the mod. But what I want to show you is this. We're going to overlay what I've done. So just to show you what this is, there's a manifest. This application has a manifest of what you do to your game, so you can easily reverse it. That's what this is. It's a manifest of everything that's done. And up until this point, these are all of the mods that I added to the game. Plugin, which says plugin text, that's where I activated, deactivated plugins. There was a change to the load order. So if I wanted to look at it, if it's still in the manifest, I believe, let's see, I can go to the manifest entry here, and you can see exactly what was changed. But you notice there's no little white entries highlighted, and well, not highlighted, but just the session entries. Now this is where this right here was the first game session that I actually played after installing a bunch of mods. And this is where I was trying to figure out, okay, is it going to work? Is it going to run? What's going to happen? Right? But I want you to notice down here. So after, let's see if I can locate where it is. Okay. So right here is where, let me highlight this. Everything is right around in this area here is where I disabled SPID. I just disabled the plugin. However, and true damage, I had to take true damage out. So it is removed from the load order. True damage is removed. I think it's right up in here somewhere. So those were actually removed, which didn't cause a problem. But what you can see is I've added mods. These are mods that I've added. And of course, this is probably where I deactivated plugins. Let's see. Yeah, see, there's where I was deactivating the plugins. And then that looks like where I tried to add a brand new plugin or activated. Sometimes the plugins, since this application is a work in progress, sometimes they'll deactivate and I'll have to activate them. I pretty much got most of that worked out, but we'll talk about that later. But anyways, you can see where I added a bunch of mods. Now, I added these mid-game and not a single crash. However, it probably bloated the game save. So if I go over here to the game saves, let's find our game saves here. And we go down to our character, which the current character is the green one. Let's see here what we've got. See, you can see steadily how it starts to increase. See, this would be from like 17 megs up to like 22 megs. So it is possible that there's orphaned entries, and since I don't have a resaver to use, because I don't think he's updated his resaver to work with the new Java, I can't get those out, so I just leave them in there. So in a sense, the game save is almost assuredly bloated at this point. However, it's still very playable. I can, and just on a side note, I've rearranged the order of these. I had this one here. I believe it was Open Commonwealth. I had this one below Rebuild Settlements, and I had this previs below that. So it was overriding the Rebuild Settlement previs, And when I was in, I was near, oh God, I can't think of it. It's that big, that big monument. Oh God, it eludes me at the moment. Anyways, Bunker Hill. When is it Bunker Hill? You could see a lot of the objects disappearing, reappearing. That's a previs issue. So I simply exited my game, moved it up in the load order. I moved it up to here, where it currently is. Let me mark it. I moved it up to here, down from below here, and it was fine. It didn't mind me doing that at all. So I've added weapons and armor. I've added NPCs. I've changed the way NPCs are generated, where they have a variety. So I've added many different mods from many different years, all the way back from 2017. I think Cross Rail or one of those was like 2017, and no crash. But then I get this random crash, and what's interesting with this crash is my character died. So up until the time, I haven't really, my character would die occasionally, but in this instance, when they died, and the game wanted to instantly reload, wanted to reload, it reloaded everything just fine, but then right when it goes to render the scene, it crashes. And this is a rare kind of a thing. And if you look at it, you'll see that it's the exact same problem that Bethesda has, or it's a problem with the modded games, Bethesda's modded games, whether it's caused by a modder, whether it's through F4SE plugin, or whether it's Bethesda themselves. It looks like it had something to do with previs, because that's some of the last things that existed before it went south. So I did add, there is some broken previs, and that could have been part of the problem. Or there is a loading issue whenever you're in a settlement. Some objects aren't loading. And, well, let me rephrase that. The physics aren't loading properly. The collision isn't properly loading. And that would be like a null reference. So they may have skipped that. That may have been the fix they put in to try to eliminate a loose file stream. But somehow it's not having the expected result, or there's something. But I wanted to show you this here because this is an NG version. There are lots of mods in here. I have made many changes, mostly adding, and rearranging mods in I've rearranged the order they're in, without any crashes at all. Until it tried to reload. It went back to reload the game, and that's when it seems to be having issues. It seems to be somehow when it loads cells, especially like settlement cells, and it could even be related to a settlement maybe. I'm trying to figure out where I was. I believe I was near that Boston police thing, where they put the Hellfire X02, where you have to go down into the sewers. It's like a rationing site, I believe is what it's called. That's where the crash was, and I was able to reload. I mean, I could reload the game. That's what I did. I reloaded and picked right up where I left off. So once it crashed, so again, it wasn't a something that crashed every single time. It's random depending on when certain conditions are met, and it seems to be during a load. And it makes me kind of makes you wonder if it has to do with the way they tried to handle the loose file stream issue that seemed to be one of the biggest problems. So I mean, it's possible that they tried to edit it out but didn't catch all the edits or something. But yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. So it really depends, and that's why I was saying you have to kind of try to isolate where the problem is. Now, with this kind of load order over here, one other thing I do want to note, there is a possibility that a matter of fact, I'm almost going to guarantee there are going to be conflicts between mods. There's going to be those conflicts. Guarantee it. So the question is the conflict not noticeable? Or, like to the very least extreme, you really don't notice it. To a very, to the most extreme, it absolutely crashes and makes the game unplayable. So there are going to be conflicts, and I don't really want to spend the time trying to edit every single conflict. That's too much time. Most time I play games just have fun and to kind of enjoy, being the creative process. Kind of saying, "Oh, you made this mod, cool, fantastic, love it. Now let me combine it in a mod, kind of like a mod pack of my own, a game of my creation, if you want to call it that." Okay. And that's about all I can think of with crashes. It is. I have noticed. I know this is kind of out there, but I do believe that somehow the game is confusing variables. This is another kind of theory that I'm kind of looking at. There was a thing with wasn't face gen. It was cell reset bug, where apparently variables were added, but for some reason they were zero. They were supposed to be like a multiplication timer or something. And there's a cell reset bug, where if you cleared out a cell, when a couple cells over unloaded came back, it instantly reloaded it because the variables were zeroed out. And I see something like that happen with settlement numbers. But I'm also thinking that if for example, let's say SS2 Workshop Framework is grabbing the system variables for settlements. If Bethesda, or however it happened, created an instance where variables were supposed to be used but were not, or were returning zero when they should not, because if you reload the game, if you go back and you kick out of something and go back in and reload, you're fine. Everything's okay. I remember kind of reading this little workaround for it. I think you had to go off of survival mode in order to get it to work. So that meant that something wasn't taken into consideration. Somehow the variables weren't being passed properly. If that's true, and that's Bethesda issue, then Bethesda may also have not passed other variables properly, which means that when you're in Sanctuary, you might actually be looking at some of Red Rocket's data. Now that would be bad because that means you could never, you're always going to have leftover objects if you try to destroy your settlement to rebuild it. You can destroy it. There are always going to be leftover objects because the lists are corrupted. They're not everything. They're not all objects associated with a particular workbench. That is a possibility, and I'm beginning to think now whether that's something that's caused by an F4SE or one of its plugins, or whether that's caused by Bethesda or how modders do things. I'm not sure, but I have noticed that. So eventually I'll get around to where, I've got other things I have to do right now. So eventually I'll get around to where I'll kind of test around and play around with it. But that's far off in the future. I mean, that's not going to be anytime soon. And that's not going to help anybody anytime soon. But yeah, I just wanted to take that time to show you that this is NG. It is modded. And I have added mods during actual gameplay. We could probably even bring it up. Let's just go ahead and fire it off and bring it up. It's probably gonna crash and make me out to be some kind of I don't know, not one of not a really, I don't know. But anyways, we're gonna see if this is gonna work. See how this does. And I know this is a long video, but I think it's kind of important to kind of briefly touch over a lot of different things that it could potentially be. I have a hard time uploading this since this background music has a tendency to trigger. Oh my god, it triggers copyright notices across the board. Alright, let's give it a sec here. It's pretty good size. I think it's like 22 megs on the game save. Now, I don't know if that game save is going to go down on its own. Not really sure. I doubt it, because I'm pretty sure a lot of those are orphaned entries. But, and I'll kind of show you a little bit of this real quick, and then I'll go ahead and cut the video short. Because I know it's probably already been going on way too long. But with crashing and stuff, it's, God, there's so many different factors, and there's so many different reasons that people crash. So you can see, after I've added it, there's, I added some new mods for combat rifles, which lets me kind of improve combat rifles a little bit. You can see plasma rails over here. I added this one mid-game. This thing's kind of pretty cool. So it's kind of really neat. I added that. So, I mean, you can see the game works. And let me show you here. Let me go ahead and let's go into
Don't
this.
think I can pick this.
How do I get in here? God, it's been a while. Can I not go that way? You know what we're going to do? Just for the sake of video, we're going to do this. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and save it and reload it from within here. Because Spell Perk was the one that was crashing. No idea why. I looked, I know he posted the code. I went ahead and downloaded the code. I have not had a chance to look at anything like that, but I am in an interior cell. So let's go ahead and save it. And let's see how this works. I've done this before, so hopefully this will give me no problems. Normally, right now is where it would crash. Right when it went to even start loading, it was an instant crash. So at least made it this far. So that was the problem with me being able to save and load in interior cells, which I don't have that problem now. Okay, so just wanted to show you that, and good luck. I know it's a pain in the tail. I would recommend, if it was me, I would recommend finding out what are the very basic mods just the very, very basic mods that you want to use.
Critical damage available.
Oh, that was a total miss. What was the very basic mods that you want to use? You know, for example, you have your F4SC plugins. You've got your textures. Then build your LOD. And then decide how you want your, which NPCs you want. Get those things done first, the very core of your game. And then play it and make sure that that core works. And that's what I did here. So every time I've added something to it, and I don't have just a lot of problems building up, because usually what you find is whatever's causing the crash, it's going to cause the crash every time. And if that's in the core part of your game, then no matter how many mods you add, it's always going to crash. And it's going to make it look like a new mod caused the issue, or a mod you just added, which may or may not be the actual problem. It masks the problem. So I would get the core of it done first, make sure that's solid, and then start adding in things like NPCs and locations, and then see what you get. Okay, so good luck with it. I know it's a pain, but once you get it working, it is a lot of fun. So again, good luck, and if you have any more problems, just go ahead and post.